Good morning. I am going to demonstrate for y'all today the double alternating Nobuko stitch, which was requested from Sally. And so what you'll see on the canvas in front of you is this is double Nobuko. This is double alternating Nobuko. And what you see here is done in silk and ivory. And so it is a wool and it's more of a puffier thread. I am going to use a pearl cotton for the purposes of the demonstration. And just to keep in mind that this is done on 13 count rather than 18 count. So the stitch is going to appear to look bigger than what it would look like should you do it on 18 count. So I am going to do the waist knot. And, sorry, get my hands straight. I'm going to come up. And the very first stitch I'm going to do is going to be the long diagonal stitch of the Nobuko. And so I'm going to go diagonal. I'm going to skip 1, 2 holes and go in the third. And then I am going to duplicate that stitch. 1, 2, go in the third. Now it is time for the short stitch of the Nobuko. So from where I just went in, I'm going to come down 1, 2, and go to my left 1 stitch or 1 hole. And I'm going to do my short stitch. And you'll notice that my short stitch is going in directly under where my last long stitch went. And then I'm going to duplicate that stitch. Now it's time for another long stitch. I'm going to go directly under where that short stitch started. And I'm going to do my long stitch. 1, 2, in on the third. And then duplicate. And again, come down 1, 2, over to the left. This is my short stitch. I'm going in 1 hole directly under that long stitch. And then I'm going to duplicate. And I'm going to do one more set. I'm going to come directly underneath that short stitch. 1, 2, in. And then I'm going to go in here. And so what you will notice here is this is the double Nobuko moving horizontally. And what I want you to pay attention to is the long stitches all share the same row. They're all on the same row. And the short stitches are all on the same row. They end on the same row. So when I come back, that is what is going to create the alternating portion of this stitch. And so I am going to come back starting with a short stitch, my first short stitch. So I'm going to go 1 stitch here to the right of this hole that is sharing this long stitch. I'm going to do 1 stitch here. Then I'm going to duplicate. Now I'm moving from right to left. This short stitch is going to share the hole of that long stitch. And then my long stitch is going to come 1 under, just like it did going the other direction. I'm just moving from right to left, and I'm changing the direction. So I'll come up 1 stitch under, skip 1, 2, and go in the third. And then I'm going to duplicate that, stay in on the same row, because remember I told you your long stitches and your short stitches each stay on their own row. 1, 2, go in the third. And now it's time for the short stitch. So I'm going to go just like we did up top. We're going to come down 1, 2, and over 1, just moving to the right. Go in 1. And then the second short stitch is going to share the bottom of this long diagonal. The long stitch is 1 under that short stitch, directly under. 1, 2 skips in the third. Move. 1, 2 in that stitch. And then you remember we come 1, 2, and this time we go over 1 to the right. And then we got our 2 short stitches. Okay. And now let me go ahead and do 1 more long. So I'm going to come down directly under that last stitch. 1, 2, 3. And move over. 1, 2, 3. So now when I come back in the other direction, I am going to start with my short stitch. And so the first short stitch is going to end up going in this hole right here. So you're going to do a short stitch right here. And the second short stitch, just like on the row above, is going to share a hole with this long stitch. And as you notice, I've changed directions again. So now I'm going to go under, 1 stitch under that short stitch, and I'm going to do my long stitch. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to move directly horizontally. 1, 2, 3. Now it's time for the short stitch. Remember, we came under 1, 2, and over 1 to the left. And duplicate it right there. Sharing the hole here with the bottom part of that long stitch. Then I'm going to come under directly, 1 hole for the long stitch. 1, 2, 3. Duplicate that stitch, moving horizontally. 1, 2, 3. And then it would be time for the short stitch. 1, 2, over 1 to the left, and it's going to come up right there. This is a great stitch to change fibers. Like your long stitches could be 1 fiber and your short stitches could be a different fiber, different color, different texture. The short stitches could also be beads. So there's all kinds of things that you can do to change the stitch up, but it also looks pretty, I think, just utilizing the same thread throughout. So I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions or need any further clarification, feel free to reach out to me. Hope you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend.